Good evening. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live at Cornerstone Baptist Church. I am Renato Costa. I am your music minister. Tonight I am recording from the church. So thank you for tuning in. You probably see a slide on your screen right now that says, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And that's not just a statement about me. That is the title of a book that talks about Christianity. How do I know its truth? And why do we know its truth? You can get a free copy of that, a free audio copy of that at my Facebook profile. I'll leave a link to that on my profile. And also at a website called crossexamined.org. Just go to my Facebook page and you will find all of that. So why is Christianity truth? Think about that. Well, the Bible says in Luke 10:27, words of Jesus, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself." It is because of loving God with all my mind that I try to ponder about questions like this. And it is because the Bible commands us to love the Lord with all our mind that I want to pose these thoughts to you tonight so that we can think about these things together. Now, thinking is hard work. In fact, there's a phrase that goes like this: thinking is hard work. That is why few people do it. A lot of smart people in the 20th century said that phrase. It has been attributed to Einstein, to Ford, to Mark Twain, and some other people. I don't know who said it first, but it's true. Thinking is hard work. And it seems that few people are willing to do that. But as we think about Christianity, there is a thought process that involves a total of 12 questions that explain the faith. And if you want to talk to me about that at another opportunity, I can tell you about those 12 questions and I can point some resources to you. But tonight we're going to condense that into 4 questions, really. 4 questions are: does truth exist? Does God exist? Are miracles possible? And is the New Testament reliable? The study called I don't have enough faith to be an atheist examines these 4 questions. Tonight, really, we're only going to examine the first 2 questions. Does truth exist? And does God exist? Now, does truth exist? In examining the question, does truth exist, we will learn the most valuable thinking skill we can use. There are many different thinking skills that are obviously useful to life. There's logic, there's polemics and different arguments, but this one thinking skill is the most important one according to many people who study the subject. The thinking skill is this: you have to learn to identify self-defeating statements. In learning to identify self-defeating statements, we will then examine the question, does truth exist? There are a lot of self-defeating statements out there, and some seem absurd. And it is clear that they are absurd, and you're going to think, why would anybody say anything like that? But hold on. So, one self-defeating statement could be, I don't know a single word in English. But if I'm using the English language to say that phrase, it is obviously a lie. It is a self-defeating statement because the very words that I'm saying contradict the phrase I'm using. Another self-defeating statement would be something like, my brother is an only child. Of course, he isn't an only child if he is my brother. Or, everything I say is a lie. Well, if everything I say is a lie, the fact I'm saying everything I say is a lie is also a lie. So that is a self-defeating statement. Or there's the phrase, all generalizations are false. But when I say all generalizations are false, I am making a generalization. Right? I am saying that all generalizations are false. Now, this question of generalizations it's near to me. It's almost dear to me because this fallacy is very frequently used nowadays. It is very frequently used in Brazil, especially. And the problem there is not only that people are saying all generalizations are false, a lot of people don't seem to know exactly what a generalization is. For example, I have used the phrase, most people from a certain place have a certain reputation. And people come back at me and say, you are generalizing. When in fact I'm not. All I said was most people. I would have been generalizing if I said all people from that place have a certain reputation. When I say most people, that is not a generalization. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this question of generalization, but it is becoming a problem, I think, as a consequence of devaluing absolute truth in mathematics. We're not studying math as we should. As a consequence of our deficient knowledge in math, one of the consequences of that is people don't know what a generalization is anymore. But I'm not going to chase that rabbit today. We have to get going. So another self-defeating statement is this: there is no such a thing as absolute truth. Think about it. Imagine that I'm saying there is no such thing as absolute truth. Or you might ask, is that true? Because if I'm saying there is no such thing as absolute truth, then that very statement, there is no such thing as absolute truth, is a lie. Or all truth is relative. Is that truth? The man who wrote the book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, he was once in a debate. The man's name, the author's name is Frank Turek. Again, you can look him up on my Facebook profile. And one of the stories that Frank Turek likes to say is that he was once at a debate where the question being debated was the existence of truth. The question was, does truth exist? Now think of the absurdity of that situation. Here you have two people debating, does truth exist? Now imagine that the man who is saying truth does not exist, imagine that he wins the debate. By winning the debate, it will be obviously implied that what he is saying is truth, in which case truth does exist. That is exactly how Frank Turek tells the story. He says, well, I can't lose a debate tonight, because if my opponent wins, you'll be saying that what he's saying is truth, in which case there is truth. Now, all of this seems absurd when you think about it, but in actual fact, there are plenty of people around us saying absurd things like that there is no such thing as absolute truth, or that all truth is relative. Again, I ask, is that true? Or there's the patronizing idea, that is truth for you but not for me. Is that true for everyone, or just for you, or just for me? Now, let us say, for the sake of argument, that I should give relative truth a chance. Let's give relative truth a chance. Let us keep an open mind about relative truth. Let's try that at the bank. Let me tomorrow go to the bank, and when the man says let's say I have $1,000 in my bank account, I will tell him, no, that is truth for you. My truth is that there are $300,000 in my account. Now give me that money in $100 bills. Think that will work? Let's try that at the doctor. Let's say I go to the doctor and he diagnoses me with, let's pick something grave. Let's say cancer, stage 3. And I tell the doctor, no, that is truth for you. My truth is that I am perfectly healthy and I'm going to live until I am 150 years old. You think that will work? Or let's try that while crossing the street. We have here close to our church, Albemarle Road. It is a 4-lane highway, 2 lanes each. Suppose that I try to cross Albemarle Road and I see a bus coming at me. And I tell that bus, now it isn't truth that there is a bus coming at me. That might be truth for the bus, it's not truth for me. Because all truth is relative. There is no such thing as relative truth. And furthermore, here's a generalization. I will make a generalization now that is right. Nobody, I say again, nobody lives as if there were no absolute truths. The very apostles of relative truth will not cross Albemarle Road if there's a bus coming at them. They will not go to the bank and tell the man they have $300,000 when they only have $1,000. And they will not contradict the doctor who says they have brain cancer. So, again, I am generalizing. This generalization is truth. Absolutely nobody lives as if there were no absolute truths. There's also the problem of arrogance in saying that all truth is relative. Because if one says that, what he's actually saying that is that the only thing that is true, that is actually truth, absolute truth, is what that person is saying right now. So not only is that logically vacuous, it is extremely arrogant. There's another patronizing way of approaching absolute truth, and that is when it comes to Jesus. Our culture, wanting to relativize things, talks about Jesus in terms of, he was a good teacher, he was a moral person, but he's Savior for you, he's not Savior for me. But let's think about this together, all right? C.S. Lewis put it very well in a set of phrases that is called the Liar Lunatic of Lord Trilemma. The trilemma goes like this. I will read it to you now. It's also on your screen. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice, according to C.S. Lewis. So Jesus is either Lord, liar, or lunatic. That last phrase, you must make your choice, that is important as well, because today in a relativistic society, people try to avoid making that choice. And they said, well, that is truth for you, not for me. You go your way, I'll go mine, and I don't have to make a decision about Jesus. Right? After all, I have decided he is a good moral teacher. That should be good enough. No, it isn't. You have to make your choice because eternity depends on that. If your choice is wrong, you're going to hell. You must make your choice. Now, I have been saying here things that to me are obvious. To you, who have been a Christian for a long time, all of this is probably obvious as well. What may not be obvious to you is the question, well, why do people seem to want to ignore these things? Why do people deny the obvious and say stupid things like truth is relative? Why do people do that? How can so many people suppress the obvious? Romans 1:18 says this: God shows his anger from heaven against all sinful, wicked people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. A philosopher called Nietzsche used to say that he didn't want Christianity to be truth. He doesn't want there to be a God. He didn't want there to be a God because that would allow him to behave however he wanted. Right? If there's no God, if there are no absolutes, I'm not accountable to anyone. I can live however I want. Nietzsche got famous for saying that. He sold a lot of books and he died of syphilis. Frank Turek, again, and some other apologists, William Lane Craig, Ravi Zacharias, there are a lot of people on YouTube that you can search, and once in a while they will ask atheists the following question. They will say, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And there are a lot of atheists who just point blank say, no, I wouldn't. And there are some who are angry when they say, no, I wouldn't. So in essence, what they're saying is, there is no God, and I hate him. Many people say they are in a quest for truth and good living, but a lot of people are not really in a quest for truth. We, humans, are on a quest for happiness. We just want to believe whatever makes us happy. Now, to the God question, we have established, I hope, that there is such a thing as truth. Truth is absolute. Now that we know that, let us examine the question of God. Does God exist? Now, you can read the books I recommend, and you will see that one can spend a vast amount of time talking about the question of God's existence. I will now give to you what I think are some of the best arguments to support the claim that, of course, God does exist. There is an argument. It is a more than 1,000-year-old argument. It's called the Kalam cosmological argument. And it says this: everything that begins to exist needs a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe needs a cause. The cause for the beginning of the universe, the cause for the beginning of everything we know, has to be outside of the universe. In other words, since all material things began to exist, we need a cause outside of that, which is God, obviously. There's the beginning argument. It's called the cosmological argument. There's the design argument. We'll go back to that in a minute. There's also a thing called the moral argument. We all know that there is such a thing as right and wrong. There are certain things that are morally right and morally wrong. what today's relativistic culture doesn't seem to answer is, how is it that we know that certain things are right and certain things are wrong if there is no God? Because if there is no God, there is no framework. Some people try to explain morality by saying, try to explain it away by saying morality is what is right for most people. Morality is what makes the most people happy. And on the surface, you go, yeah, okay, I can buy that. But if you think about that for more than 30 seconds, you come up with examples like, well, so is 10 people beating 1 people to death right then? Because that made the majority of people happy. That made 10 people happy, well, just 1 suffered. So if morality is majority vote, then beating that guy to death was right. Or you can also think about the Holocaust of Jews, gypsies, and homosexuals during Second World War. You know, by all estimates, between 6 and 8 million people were killed during the Holocaust, whilst the population of Germany was much larger than that. It was probably larger than 30 million people. So the majority is said to have benefited from those killings. So again, if it was right for the majority, it would have to be right, unless there is a God, unless there is an absolute standard of morality and of right and wrong. So back to the beginning argument. Everything that begins to exist needs a cause. So either no one created something out of nothing, by the way. No one created something out of nothing, or someone created something out of nothing. And that creation, my friends, that design was very precise, very minute. I would like to show you now a video that explains the exact precision of the design of the universe. So watch this with me.
From galaxies and stars, down to atoms and subatomic particles, the very structure of our universe is determined by these numbers. These are the fundamental constants and quantities of the universe. Scientists have come to the shocking realization that each of these numbers has been carefully dialed to an astonishingly precise value, a value that falls within an exceedingly narrow, life-permitting range. If any one of these numbers were altered by even a hair's breadth, no physical, interactive life of any kind could exist anywhere. There'd be no stars, no life, no planets, no chemistry. Consider gravity, for example. The force of gravity is determined by the gravitational constant. If this constant varied by just 1 in 10 to the 60th parts, none of us would exist. To understand how exceedingly narrow this life-permitting range is, imagine a dial divided into 10 to the 60th increments. To get a handle on how many tiny points on the dial this is, compare it to the number of cells in your body, or the number of seconds that have ticked by since time began. If the gravitational constant had been out of tune by just one of these infinitesimally small increments, the universe would either have expanded and thinned out so rapidly that no stars could form and life couldn't exist, or it would have collapsed back on itself with the same result: no stars, no planets, and no life. Or consider the expansion rate of the universe. This is driven by the cosmological constant. A change in its value by a mere 1 part in 10 to the 120th parts would cause the universe to expand too rapidly or too slowly. In either case, the universe would, again, be life-prohibiting. Or, another example of fine-tuning. If the mass and energy of the early universe were not evenly distributed to an incomprehensible precision of 1 part in 10 to the 10 to the 123rd, the universe would be hostile to life of any kind. The fact is, our universe permits physical, interactive life only because these, and many other numbers, have been independently and exquisitely balanced on a razor's edge. Wherever physicists look, they see examples of fine-tuning. The remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. If anyone claims not to be surprised by the special features that the universe has, he's hiding his head in the sand. These special features are surprising and unlikely. What is the best explanation for this astounding phenomenon? There are three live options. The fine-tuning of the universe is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. Which of these options is the most plausible? According to this alternative, the universe must be life-permitting. The precise values of these constants and quantities could not be otherwise. But is this plausible? Is a life-prohibiting universe impossible? Far from it. It's not only possible, it's far more likely than a life-permitting universe. The constants and quantities are not determined by the laws of nature. There's no reason or evidence suggests that fine-tuning is necessary. How about chance? Did we just get really lucky? No. The probabilities involved are so ridiculously remote as to put the fine-tuning well beyond the reach of chance. So, in an effort to keep this option alive, some have gone beyond empirical science and opted for a more speculative approach, known as the multiverse. They imagine a universe generator that cranks out such a vast number of universes that, odds are, life-permitting universes will eventually pop out. However, there's no scientific evidence for the existence of this multiverse. It cannot be detected, observed, measured, or proved. And the universe generator itself would require an enormous amount of fine-tuning. Furthermore, small patches of order are far more probable than big ones. So the most probable, observable universe would be a small one, inhabited by a single, simple observer. But what we actually observe is the very thing that we should least expect: a vast, spectacularly complex, highly ordered universe, inhabited by billions of other observers. So even if the multiverse existed, which is a moot point, it wouldn't do anything to explain the fine-tuning. Given the implausibility of physical necessity or chance, the best explanation for why the universe is fine-tuned for life may very well be it was designed that way. A common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect monkeyed with physics, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates from the facts seem to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. There is for me powerful evidence that there is something going on behind it all. It seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature's numbers to make the universe. The impression of design is overwhelming. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge.
So during that video, we talked about the cosmological constants, all right? These constants are pieces of data that have to be extremely precise for the existence of life in our universe, all right? One such constant that the video talked about was the force of gravity. Gravity has to be precise by a factor of 10 to the 60th power. That is this number right here. It is 1 followed by 60 zeros. All right? And to give you an idea of how big this number is, it talked about the number of cells in your body, which is an enormous number. It also talked about the number of seconds since time began. Now, the man narrating the video assumes an old Earth creationism principle. In other words, he is saying that since time began, there have been almost 14 billion years. All right? We're not going to debate young Earth or old Earth right now. We're just talking about his number, okay? So the number that he's talking about is the number of seconds in 14 billion years. That is this number right here, 10 to the 24. Right? 1 followed by 24 zeros. Gravity had to be even much more precise than that. It had to be fine-tuned to 10 to the 60th power. This is an unimaginably precise tuning that God designed. My friends, we are here talking about one of the constants of fine-tuning. There are 22. Believing that all of that happened by chance requires an extraordinary amount of faith. And that's why I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Now finally, I'd like to show you this car right here. I like model cars. Perhaps you have seen in my office, I have a few model cars that a good friend gave me as a present. I like models because they give me the pleasures of a style and things without the pain of maintenance, not to mention the cost. But this here is a Chevy Bel Air. A lot of you probably like the Chevy Bel Air. It's a very nice car. This is a coupe, of course, 2 doors. My model here has an opening on the hood. I can look in the engine and opens doors and things, and it's just very pretty to look at. It is on display in my office if you want to come by and look at it. I might not let you play with it, but you can look at it. All right? Now, let us imagine that you see that car right there behind me this whole time, and I tell you, oh, look, that thing just appeared right there by chance. You know, 14 billion years of evolution, natural selection, and materials coming together, and all of that, you know, by a chance, the metals came together and it formed a car. Look at that, how pretty. A car. If I told you that happened by chance, you'd tell me I'm crazy, right? Now this here, my friends, has less than 100 parts. If I told you it came to appear here by chance, you'd tell me I'm crazy. Yet some are willing to believe that everything around us happened by chance. That's just too much faith. And again, that's why I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Thank you for watching. Good night.